Deep in the shadow-soaked foothills of Mount Fuji, where the sun seems afraid to enter, the Aokigahara Forest waits like a living, breathing maze. Its roots twist like veins, its branches hang low like skeletal arms, and the silence is so heavy it feels alive. Ethan Mercer, a documentary traveler and wildlife photographer, stepped cautiously through the boundary rope, convinced he could capture the secrets of the so-called suicide forest. What he didn't know was that some secrets are not meant to be filmed. Under the dense canopy, sound itself seemed swallowed. The wind refused to move, and every step made the earth feel alive beneath him, as if the soil itself were breathing. While his camera recorded only static, Ethan's ears caught faint whispers threading through the trees, voices curling around him like cold breath, repeating his name in tones too familiar to ignore. The forest seemed to lead him deeper into a tangle of identical paths until his compass spun wildly and his GPS died. Soon, Ethan realized he was not alone. The forest was aware of him, watching him behind trunk after trunk. Every time he turned, he thought he saw a pale outline vanish just beyond his sight. He tried to laugh it off, but the air tasted metallic, heavy, electric. A red string tied to a branch caught his attention, a guide rope left by other explorers, but this one was frayed, almost chewed, stretching into a narrow passage between crooked trees that formed a doorway of darkness. Something inside that darkness shifted, like a person moving without breath. He followed the rope cautiously. Shadows crawled along the ground. The forest grew denser, daylight thinning into watery streaks, until he arrived at a small clearing. The clearing was filled with abandoned tents, water bottles, journals, and shoes lined neatly as if their owners had vanished into thin air. Suddenly, his camera turned on by itself, flashing a single frame of a face he knew, his own, but distorted, hollow-eyed, standing behind him even though the space was empty. Panic tightened around him. The forest seemed to pull at him, invisible fingers brushing his shoulders, guiding him toward a narrow ravine where light bent strangely, forming silhouettes that looked like people standing perfectly still. When he blinked, they moved, not walking, not stepping, but appearing slightly closer each time, like frames skipping forward in a broken video. He whispered, "Hello?" into the silence, and the silence whispered back, mimicking his tone. The voices multiplied, echoing from every direction, rising like a chorus of forgotten souls trying to speak through vines and roots. Trembling, he tried retracing the rope, but it had unraveled into useless threads hanging from branches. The path he thought he had come from had dissolved into new growth, as if the forest had rearranged itself while he wasn't looking. The silhouettes circled him now, flickering at the edge of his vision. Some were tall, some twisted, some mirrored his own posture like cruel reflections. The ground beneath him pulsed with a heartbeat-like rhythm, as if the land hid something colossal and ancient beneath the roots. Ethan began running blindly. Branches ripped at his clothes. The whisper voices shrieked his name with desperate hunger. He stumbled into a cavernous hollow beneath a leaning cypress tree, where thousands of paper talismans fluttered, though there was no wind. Each was etched with names that faded the moment he tried to read them. The cavern smelled of cold earth and rain despite months of drought. At the center, he saw a figure kneeling, hair blackened, clothes tattered, unmoving like a broken puppet. When he lifted his flashlight, the figure slowly raised its head, bending its neck at an impossible angle, revealing Ethan's own face staring back at him, eyes black voids reflecting the endless forest. He screamed and fled, but the forest swallowed the sound. Suddenly, the cameras he carried replayed scenes he had not lived yet, him stumbling, crawling, disappearing, like prophecies of his own fate. The forest tightened around him, branches curving inward until he felt squeezed by living walls. The night swallowed even the faintest hint of sky. He realized then the shadows no longer followed him, they led him, guiding him deeper toward an unseen center where the earth opened in a spiraling sinkhole of roots. Each root moved like fingers, each whisper shaped into a voice matching his own, calling him to come home. When Ethan looked up for escape, dozens of ghostly forms hung in the air, weightless, drifting like tethered memories. Figures without faces, each wearing his silhouette, each breathing in perfect sync with him. He collapsed as the air grew thick, the forest pressing against his mind, rewriting his memories, inserting visions of people he never met, lives he never lived, deaths he never witnessed. When he crawled to his feet, he saw footprints leading ahead, his footprints, fresh, identical, as if he had already walked this path again and again for years. His final footage, recovered months later, showed him wandering in circles, smiling blankly, speaking in whispers to someone not visible in the frame. In the final shot, he turned the camera toward himself, and the reflection was not his face, but the pale, hollow-eyed double he had seen in the cavern. Rescuers searched the forest for weeks, but Ethan was never found. Yet hikers sometimes report hearing a man's voice calling softly between the trees, sometimes pleading, sometimes laughing, while a second voice, identical to the first, whispers just inches behind them. "You've been here before. Welcome back."